Captain, we're picking up slipstream wakes in the system ahead. Cotter, the chief sensor operator aboard the Essex, announced. Captain Volka turned to him and smiled, her breath making small clouds of condensation from her blue lips. Technology, or magic? The young Isid looked back at his scanner before turning to his captain. Technology, ma'am. Long-range scans at maximum. Get me all the information you can on that system before we reach its edge. I want to know with what we're dealing. Yes, Captain. The young officer returned to his scanners and adjusted his console. This was Cotter's first mission in deep space. He was her nephew on her brother's side, the clan chief of the Isid, on Drameheim. She'd promised her brother to watch over his career as he advanced through the ranks of her ship and the greater clan fleet. Tactical, estimated time until we reach the system, and what is the location of the nearest clan ship? At our current speed, 5 marks, until the system's edge. The nearest clan ship is 2 light days from us at Slipstream. Of course, the Adhumbla is just a rift away. The tactical officer didn't have to remind her that calling on the dreadnought to use its rift drive to be here instantly for just a reconnaissance mission would not be a wise request. Sensor Chief, make copies of all your sensor readings and have a packet and analysis ready by the time we reach the system. She thought she might as well allow her young nephew to shine. Yes, ma'am. Cotter replied. And so they closed with the system, making the best use of their time studying the data coming in from the sensors. It was a trinary system, with 1 yellow supergiant and 2 yellow main sequence stars. The navigation library named it Scopstora, and it had been identified over 2 millennia ago. 1 planet orbited all 3 stars in a trajectory to give the most dedicated gambler heat flashes. From what Volka could tell, it was not a planet or people were likely to want to colonize, as it was far too warm for their liking. Captain, we're picking up 3 cylindrical habitats in orbit around the star. Each is approximately 22 roasts in diameter and 667 roasts long. And the planet. Its orbit is peppered with thousands of satellites. There appear to be established traffic routes between the planet and the habitats, and mining stations in the asteroid fields. Some are dedicated to sublight slipstream and others to FTL. In-system communications. They appear to be using tight beam hyperlight radio connections between the settlements and general low-range hyperlight broadcasts from the ships. They appear to be attempting to keep the local waves clear of as much static as possible. Volka nodded. That suggested a species that expected an attack. What can you get from their broadcasts about their physiology? They call themselves human and are part of a Terran confederacy of worlds and nations. An image of what could have passed as many Jotnar species, with skin tones that ran from pink to brown and hair that was dominated by browns but had blondes, redheads, and even black hair among them. Then Volka caught the scale. They were children. Few would even reach the knees of an Isid, and not even that high on a Dremite. What have we found? More Alpha. They are beginning to infest the whole damn galaxy. No, ma'am. They appear to be an entirely different species. I searched for them in the ship's library, but found only a footnote listing their existence as classified. I'm waiting for a reply for more information from the clan library back home. And the mining operations. Almost everything an FTL civilization might need. Hold on, Captain. I'm getting significant readings of both orichalcum and mithril, plus hypernium deposits in the fields. It looks like the system's primary worked overtime before it settled down to its now questionable variance. Volka's eyes knitted together. How much? Enough to make the settlements more than rich. They are not only exporting the raw ore, they've set up burgeoning refineries and manufacturing facilities. Any shipyards? Rudimentary. They aren't building warships, but can repair and service them. Volka nodded. That made this system suddenly valuable. If she could get word back to her clan without the other clans, especially the damned Skydiet and Dremite clans finding out about the system until it was subjugated, she would indeed be a wealthy woman. She smiled at the thought of her nephew returning to his father with that kind of cut. He'd soil his pants in pride. Any defenses? Adjusting for scale, 1 battleship group and several system defense boats. Threat level. Simple fusion engine several generations behind ours. Railguns of indeterminate range, lasers, and atomic torpedoes. There are several fighter wings stationed in each of the habitats. They have particle cannons, railguns, and lasers as defense. If we're smart, we can enter the asteroid mining facilities and be out with minimum casualties to our raiding parties. I would suggest either the Orcs Alchem facilities here or the Mithril facilities here. The Hypernium facilities are too far in the system to raid without significant risk. The tactical officer pointed to 2 lights in the holo tank. How long until we reach the system's edge? 30 arcs. HUD all active scans, engage our stealth suite. Action stations, we're going raiding. The entire timber of the bridge changed and then spread out to the rest of the ship. Volka felt the fire begin to stir in her icy blood. There were spoils to be had here and a system taken if she played her cards right. Send a scrambled message to any clanship. Inform them of our location and our findings. We may need some assistance. Aye. The crew acknowledged in unison as they settled into their seats, the thrill of the raid beginning to show on their faces. Captain, the battleship is changing course. The tactical officer told her. Heading. It looks like an intercept course. How did they detect us? You ordered an active scan, ma'am. Evidently, they have the sensors to detect it. Damn. She said under breath. It was a cadet mistake. And she mentally chastised herself for it. Should we veer off or stay on our heading? Their scans are becoming intense. Possibility of penetrating our stealth suite. It's possible, but not from the frequencies I'm detecting. Volka smiled. Very well, change course. Bring us about and target the Hypernium facilities. Increase our speed to 1/3 light speed. Let them look for us here. It was a bold or stupid decision, she wasn't yet sure which. But if the battle group was looking for them out here, they could drop their cloak over the facility, fill their cargo bay with refined hypernium, and be out of the system before they could react. Her steermaster acknowledged the order, and Volka felt the ship's inertia dampeners kick in as they accelerated. When the battle was over, they would have to reset the ship's internal clocks. But the element of surprise would be worth it. Prepare a long-range particle cannon and railgun volley. Target. The closest of the large habitats. They can't move out of the way, so that will tie up their defenses and keep them busy. Aye, ma'am. The tactical officer replied before relaying the message to the firing crews. A little over 10 arcs later, the Isaks decloaked and began firing over the huge hypernium refining facilities, several 140 light seconds from the nearest habitat. 5 seconds after the ship decloaked, it rocked with collisions on its outer hull. What in hell's name? The mining facilities are firing on us, the tactical officer replied as another explosion rocked the ship. The troop bays have been hit. There's been an explosive decompression. The troops are trying to lock it down. Raise our shields. Who the hell arms a refining facility? She demanded. Break away and bring us about. Redirect fire from the habitat to the facility. Target those guns. Aye, ma'am. The tactical officer said. Captain. Cotterheim said. Quantum spike. Location. Undetermined. It's all around us. How long before it becomes critical? Unknown, ma'am. The computer can't identify the signature, but it's massive. If it's a rift, it must be from outside the galaxy and the local cluster. Loki's tethered balls. How did this get so clusterfucked? She asked herself. They're launching fighter wings. Direct hit on the habitat. Put it in the tank. The image of the huge megastructure appeared in the holo tank. A huge hole was blown through one side of the cylinder and out the other. It was venting atmosphere, water, and life forms as cracks appeared in the superstructure, threatening to break it in half. That should keep them busy for a while. Captain, the battle group is closing with us. Estimated intercept time. The ship rocked once again before the tactical officer could reply with, "Now ma'am." Shields have dropped to 30%. What in Helheim did they hit us with? Some kind of phased energy particle. It didn't splash on our shields, it enveloped them. Every shield got hit from every point simultaneously. Chief Imra says that if we take another hit like that, it'll overload every circuit on the ship and probably hull us in so many places that we'll only be useful as a fishnet. Tell Imra to power down all non-essential systems and reroute to the shields. The tactical officer relayed the message as the Issox turned to bring its broadsides to bear on the incoming battleship. Before anyone could react, the holotank flared white and then showed only a starfield. The habitat just blew up. Fire everything we've got at that battleship. We have to get out of here. Aye, ma'am. Firing all weapons. Spike peaked. Here they come. What? Volka demanded. On screen. She ordered. As the ship shuddered from firing a broadside of missiles, particle cannons, and railguns simultaneously. 2 ships. Kotterheim reported. Both are less than 200 feet long. Mass. 1,600 and 1,700 tonne each. Pleasure craft. Volka said. Ignore them unless they fire on us. Aye. The tactical officer answered. Direct hit on the battleship, ma'am. She's listing, but the 2 cruisers are closing. Damn. Take us to slipstream. Inoperable until the quantum spike has dissipated. The tactical officer replied. Target the cruisers. Obtaining new targets. One of the new crafts is hailing us. In Jotner. They're demanding to know if we just blew up the habitat. Answer them with a torpedo. I don't have time to talk right now. Aye, ma'am. The cruisers are launching torpedoes. Point defense weapons. Fire on those cruisers, then jump to slipstream. Ma'am. We might tear the ship apart if we jump to slipstream now. And if we don't, those cruisers will tear it apart. One of the smaller craft is firing on us. Before Volka could give another order, the whole ship rocked to the side and the bridge exploded in sparks of electricity and smoke. Everything went dark just before the cruiser's weapons slammed directly into their hull. The cold and darkness of space suddenly wrapped its cloak around Volka and her bridge crew. Author's name and the link to original text is in the description. Consider tapping the thumbs up and pressing the subscribe button if you enjoyed this video.